I've worked in PR for 17 years now, predominantly with authors. I have worked with fashion companies. I've worked with nonprofits, but 90% of my clientele over the last 17 years have been book authors. A circus, no.
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
Let me see. So right now, I work with a lot of authors, as I said before. So planning a lot of tours. So the day-to-day for me really starts with, on a Monday, like, okay, what do I need to get done this week based on the big events that are on the calendar? Whose next book launch is up? Who has a tour date or an event coming up this week where I need to go back and pitch local press to try to get something in the course of a week? So usually there's a lot of follow-up. I do try to have the first 2 to 3 hours of the day to try to do admin stuff, get my assistant set up with what I need her to do, just so that as my day gets busy, she can still be tackling some tasks that I won't necessarily have the time to get to. But the day changes every day. Yeah, every day is something different. So usually, again, because I work with authors, we already have a press release written. And that's basically the general information, book description, the theme of what the book is about, the audience for who the book is about, and then an author bio. So a lot of times having that, I'm pulling just a sentence or two from the full press release and then dropping that into an email to create a pitch. Because what I've learned over the years, because journalists are getting so many pitches from so many different publicists, and now everybody's basically utilizing their phone for the initial first check of your emails for the day. Mm-hmm. Keep it to like 4 to 5 sentences, which is really hard for me because the same way I'm chatty, I can type a long one. So sometimes I have to look and put it in draft and then look at my cell phone and say, oh, this is too long. As long as you can put for more information and then put a website, anything else that you want to say after your initial 250 words, more than likely is on that link that says for more information. So if they like what you said in 250 words, they'll click the link and get more information when they go to the website. And then that will inspire them to email you or call you. But it really is challenging to keep a pitch to 4 to 5 sentences. So that's the struggle. But the pitching process for me is really narrowing it down to 4 to 5 sentences. What do you want? What's the theme? A little bit about the project. And then whatever the call to action is going to be. And then you have to move on. Pitching across the board, there's no specific number. It's really a matter of the list of who do I think that this is ideal for. And on a day-to-day basis, I might tweak the pitch. So, I was pitching a cookbook author and we set up for her to do cooking demos. But then in my research, I found an article about Marcus Samuelsson talking about African food and the United States. So I said, oh, wow, you know what? That gives me an idea. So then I did some more research and then found a whole nother set of platforms that cover food that I could pitch this author to. Initially, I was really pitching her for profiles. And then after reading that article, it gave me a whole new idea and a new angle. So it just increased the list. So I feel like there's no magic number. It's really, who do you find in your research that's relevant to the content that you're pitching? And then you just pitch them. But there's no magic number for me. If somebody says yes, then it's the right structure. There's a personality behind the person that you're reaching out to. So whether a person is an editor-in-chief of Refinery 29 or they're a podcaster, there's still a person behind the email address, behind the job description. So it really just depends on what a person likes. And obviously, when the pitch is warm, definitely when the pitch is hot, sometimes I can text somebody and say, oh, this is what I'm working on now, and put a copy of the book cover in my text message and say, would you be interested in covering this for XYZ month? And then I'm like, oh, Dawn, this is great. Yeah, sure. Email me XYZ. Let's set it up. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was a text message. So it really depends on the level of relationship you have with the person that you're pitching. But one thing I say is I do not include attachments unless requested to do so. And that's simply because anybody working for a large media outlet, you don't want to compromise their email. Mm-hmm. Condé Nast or NPR, they're working off of a larger server. And you don't want to send somebody who didn't request it a 400 megabyte book cover image, high resolution, as an attachment. That could compromise their email address for the day. Because they may not have any space. So one thing I do always include in my pitches, I like to include an image, but it's always embedded in. I do not send anything as an attachment. So I think that's the main thing that people should know. Don't send anything as an attachment unless somebody asks for it. So I work with the author, Christia Donaldson. Her book is called This Is Only a Test. And it was about her experience being an entrepreneur, but a breast cancer survivor. And in the first chapter of her book, she mentioned how once she found out that she was diagnosed with cancer, she took a trip to Bali before she began chemotherapy. So I reached out to a writer at Travel Noir. And because obviously it's Travel Noir, they don't necessarily have a designated page for books, which most of the time as a book publicist, most outlets that I'm pitching, they don't have designated space for books. So it's always, okay, it's not about the book per se. It might be about the message or something. So I reached out and said, after finding out about a diagnosis of breast cancer, Bali became this entrepreneur's safe haven. And so I basically put that in the subject. So I try to look at whatever the content is for the writer that I'm pitching, and I try to put something personal in there related to who I'm pitching, but also something that says this is an exact fit. It's Travel Noir. So the destination that we're going to talk about is Bali. Right. The fact that it's an entrepreneur and the fact that she survived breast cancer. I didn't really mention anything about book. I think I may have mentioned the word memoir. In memoir, entrepreneur mentions that Bali became her safe haven. But just that was enough in the subject line for her to respond and say, oh, tell me more. And then she resulted in the feature. So a lot of times what I try to do in the subject line is either personalize it, obviously if I know the person. But if not, I try to think of very specific words or phrases. Or, there's been times where I've said, I just read your article about, women of color growing their business. Take a look at this. Great addition to your content. But again, just from that being in the subject line, it lets them know that I've already read something that they've written recently. Right. So for that, they know what they've written. So now when, my follow-up story is like, oh, okay, well, Dawn has already read the story. And now she's saying that this might be a good follow-up story. Let me check it out and see. So I try to make it very specific to what I know they're writing or specific to the outlet, and not necessarily, there's never a request in my subject. I'm not interview requests. I don't make any requests. I really just try to say, I see what you're doing and I think I have something that matches. But I'm not asking for anything. I try to be of service. So I love a resource I share with authors, definitely share with publicists. It's called nationaldaycalendar.com. And it basically has all type of random holidays. So we know about Christmas. We know that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We know February is Black History Month. But, in October, there's a day and it's called National Cookie Day. So, if you're working with someone who has a book on baking, a lot of times journalists don't necessarily know about these really small niche days on the calendar. Like there's a National Taco Day. National Puppy Day. So when you know about those days, I try to include that. October 13th is National Cookie Day. Owner of bakery giving away free whatever. So I try to put the calendar tie-in in the subject line, because more often than not, unless it's one of the major holidays, whoever I'm pitching has no idea that there's a National Cookie Day in October.
Right.
So, so for me, it's notifying them. Or like now we're in April, National Poetry Awareness Month. So it's not really about a date. It's like the month of April. If ever there's a time when poets should be shown love from the media, it's in April during National Poetry Awareness Month. So regardless of the outlet, you can cover a poet and their work during the month of April. So a lot of times it's just letting people know that there is a calendar tie-in nationally or locally. A lot of times people just don't know. But nationaldaycalendar.com, I believe is what it's called, is a good resource. In the beginning of my career, it seemed so easy because it was a time when people literally, you can say, oh, let's meet for coffee. Like that really was a thing. Let's meet for drinks. oh, I'm going to this event. Would you like to come with me? I have a +1. When I first got started, a lot of my building relationships were literally because I was outside, talking to people on the phone, connecting via like referrals, and then really getting to meet people face to face. Now the industry has changed so much, and that's the part that I hate. People seem to be so swamped and overworked and burnt out that the thought of meeting somebody for coffee in the morning or a glass of wine at happy hour just seems to be foreign. Like people just aren't, even if we weren't in a pandemic, people just don't seem to do that anymore. And I really like in-person interaction, building relationships now. I try to do the same thing. Like I had a call with a bookstore today, and one of the things I suggested to them was, I have some events coming up virtually, and I would love to invite you so that you can kind of see the type of events that I do. For me, I still try to extend those invitations. Try to circle out, ping people on social media, invite them to Clubhouse conversations and things like that. You just got to be really creative now because we're not really meeting in person, and people are too overworked to meet in person. Don't let the job stress you out. When I first started out on PR, I used to get a high. Like when I would get that email that says, oh, Dawn, this is great. We would love to do something. Here are some dates. I still get a high. Like I tell clients all the time, listen, when the confirmation comes in, I'm just as excited as you're going to be. So I really think that because the job can be stressful, because it can be thankless, I think that as a publicist, you need to really say, I enjoy this work and figure out why you're doing it. For me, I like the idea of helping someone pursue their dream. I think that if you're going to be a publicist and starting out, you just want to make sure that you're enjoying the work that you're doing. My technique has always been to be of service. So I'm not really asking for media coverage. My job is to be of service and help you with your content load. So my whole purpose of pitching is always, I see that this is what you're doing, and I would love to help you.